Finally back home, Veronica closed the front door and carefully placed her groceries on the nearby nightstand. She relished the blissful silence that enveloped her. How delightful it was to return to her empty apartment after a long day of work and have a few hours to herself. Her daughter Varia and her grandmother had left for a vacation in Turkey 2 days ago. Veronica was glad that they could enjoy some sunlight in the midst of winter. As for her husband, he had gone directly from work to visit his parents and would be spending the night with them. Veronica cherished these rare moments of solitude, transforming them into her own little holiday. No more diets tonight. She indulged in cheese slices, salted redfish, grapes, berries, and a bottle of fine wine. And of course, a whole bucket of pistachio ice cream. Nika spread the food out on the table and pondered over her next decision. Should she prepare a light dinner or simply boil a bag of king prawns and enjoy this delicacy with a glass of light beer? Lost in her thoughts, her contemplation was interrupted by a phone call. Glancing at the screen, Nika frowned. When would Karina understand that everyone was tired of her incessant gossip and pestering? Hi there, am I interrupting? Karina didn't wait for a response. Listen, I wanted to ask you, has Lyudka found someone after the divorce? Karina, it's only been 2 months since her divorce. Can't you lay off the gossip for once? Veronica curtly interrupted her nosy friend. Oh, I'm sorry, I was just concerned. And how about you and Borka? Everything going well, I hope? Karina's voice now carried a sympathetic tone. I apologize, Karina, but I just got home from work and I'm tired, Nika grinned. Of course, Karina's voice became ingratiating. Thank God you're doing well. Because yesterday I saw them together, I couldn't sleep all night. Nika didn't understand. Who did you see? Your Boris and Lyudmila, Karina exclaimed. You know that Ludka and I work in the same building, but in different offices. Yesterday, I was going to have lunch in a cafeteria. I went out, and ahead Ludka goes. I called out to her, but she didn't even hear me. She got into the car and drove off. That's when I saw them. What does Boris have to do with this? Nika asked. So the car is yours, Karina explained. I recognized it right away. The color stood out. Plum. And as soon as I saw Boris behind the wheel, I immediately realized that something was wrong. Nika held back her anger and said, Well, first of all, it's Boris, not Borka. Is he a collective farm pig or something? And secondly, my husband took my best friend Mila to the dentist yesterday. Is that a crime? There was silence. Then Karina sighed strangely, almost like a quack, and regretfully said, No, it's not a crime when people close to each other help each other. Thank the heavens. I just mistakenly thought that a divorced man was stealing the closest friend of a good man. Thank you for your vigilance. Veronica quickly ended the conversation and finally took a deep breath. What on earth is happening? Obviously, she couldn't let Karina take pleasure in her misery, so she lied about the dentist. But the truth remained. Boris was secretly involved with her best friend, practically like a sister to her. It's important to stay calm. Veronica knew all too well the destructive power of jealousy. In the early years of their marriage, she constantly suspected Boris of being unfaithful. Every time he glanced in the direction of another woman, Nika would instantly go into a jealous frenzy. One particular incident at a friend's birthday party at a restaurant still haunted Veronica. She was convinced that Boris was looking too affectionately at another woman. With alcohol in her system, she unleashed a scandalous whisper in his ear before running off in tears. Her friend pursued her, followed by the other guests. Everyone tried to calm her down. It's truly repulsive to even recall that night. She remembered that night for a long time. When they returned home, Boris didn't shout, swear, or threaten divorce. He calmly and firmly stated, I've almost accepted that you never learned to trust me, but why ruin the lives of strangers? This was supposed to be your close friend's party, and instead of congratulating Mila, the guests had to comfort you. It's like Othello in Bows. I'm tired of your baseless jealousy, so this will be the last time you make such a scene. Nika wanted to offer some kind of explanation, but as soon as she glanced at her husband, she felt compelled to bite her tongue. The kind-hearted Boris had transformed into a weary, unfamiliar individual. Veronica was overcome with shame and vowed to never upset her beloved with groundless suspicions again. To be fair, Boris never gave her a genuine reason to be jealous. He never hid his phone or computer passwords from her. 2 years of living in bliss, and then suddenly, everything came crashing down when trust was shattered by an unexpected event. Veronica felt a lump form in her throat, her emotions running high. With a trembling hand, she reached for her cell phone and dialed her mother-in-law's number. "Good evening, Anna Sergeyevna," Veronica greeted, her voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Varenka is doing fine. Is Borja far away? I've been trying to reach him but can't get through. Maybe his phone is dead." A minute passed before her husband's calm voice came through the phone. "Hello, everything is all right with my phone. What's wrong?" he asked, concern evident in his tone. "Nothing," Veronica replied softly. "I just really miss you." "Really?" Boris chuckled, sounding somewhat incredulous. "And here, I thought we had a terrible odor in the apartment from your sea creatures." "No, are you all right, sunshine? Do you want me to come over?" As her husband's affectionate and slightly teasing voice reached her ears, Veronica felt a warm, comforting sensation sweep over her. No, stay with your parents. I actually wanted to talk to Milka, but I haven't been able to reach her for the past 3 days. I'm worried. Maybe something has happened." Boris replied nonchalantly, "There's nothing wrong with your Milka. I saw her yesterday. She wanted to see the apartment she inherited from her grandmother." Confused, Veronica asked, "Why?" Boris, genuinely surprised, replied, "To assess the situation, figure out the necessary repairs, and calculate the cost. It's work for my firm, and you might even get a discount for your friend." Boria began sharing details, and Nika found the discussion of other people's repairs surprisingly interesting. However, after speaking with her husband, Veronica hurriedly called Milka to reconcile their statements. "Hello, darling. It's been 3 days since we last spoke," Nika said. "Hi, I was just about to call you," Milka rejoiced. "I sent Seryoshka to spend the weekend with my ex-husband, and I already miss him. Can you imagine? You don't know how to appreciate the joy of long-awaited freedom. I'm alone too." Boria went to visit his parents, Nika replied. Milka didn't react to the message, and the friends engaged in some small talk. Eventually, Veronica cautiously initiated a secret interrogation. "By the way, I keep forgetting to ask, are you planning to sell your grandmother's apartment or rent it out?" Veronica asked. "I'm planning to rent it out, of course. Why would I sell? Sergey will grow up, get married, and having an apartment in a good neighborhood will be handy. But I won't let anyone in until spring. We need to make the place look presentable. Boris already assessed everything yesterday, and it's going to cost a fortune to renovate." Milka replied. "And you met with Boris yesterday?" Nika pretended to be surprised. "He didn't tell you? Maybe he thought I had already informed you," Milka laughed. Nika's inner voice whispered softly, expressing her disappointment at the delay in her report. Unaware of her friend's unease, Mila excitedly shared how Svetka had taught her to bake delicious cupcakes. She asked Nika to write down the recipe, but Veronica offered to remember it instead. This conversation with her friend helped Nika regain her composure. She quickly made her way to Boris's office to jot down the recipe directly from her memory. Setting a sheet of paper on Boris's desk, Nika searched through her drawer for a pen. As she rummaged, she stumbled upon a small branded bag from a jewelry store. Intrigued, she opened it to find a white velvet box containing gold earrings with a green stone. Although Nika wasn't particularly fond of colored stones, she couldn't help but fall in love with the elegant jewelry. She mused that Boris must have met with Milka to seek advice on the thoughtful gift. Excitedly, Nika decided to try on the earrings. Standing in front of the mirror, she noticed how the stone sparkled in the light. She wondered if it was a genuine emerald and pondered Boris's extravagant gesture. As there was no special occasion at hand, she wondered if he planned to surprise his wife on Valentine's Day. However, Nika couldn't bear the anticipation and playfully thought, maybe these earrings were not meant for me at all. She hid the box back in the bag, recalling a movie where a similar mix-up occurred. It was titled Real Love, a beautiful and romantic film that Veronica had planned to watch. Feeling lighthearted, Nika made her way to the kitchen to prepare a delightful dinner with a glass of wine, fluttering like a butterfly in anticipation. The following day, Boris returned home with gifts from his parents. Veronica was delighted to receive cherry jam and currant jam from her mother-in-law, and she had been in a wonderful mood since morning. It was Saturday, and there was no need for her to go to work. Her soul was singing with joy as she opened the window, allowing the crisp, deliciously frosty air to fill the room. Outside, the view was of a dazzling winter's day. Enthusiastically, Nika began a thorough cleaning of the house. She scrubbed the stove, the sink, and the bathtub with great gusto. Infectiously, Boris caught his wife's enthusiasm and joined in, grabbing a rag and then the vacuum cleaner. Together, they swiftly brought a shine to the entire apartment. After a satisfying and appetizing lunch, Boris left for a meeting with a potential customer. Veronica felt a slight disappointment as she did not receive any hints or mysterious looks from Boris. How could it be? Then again, who arranges surprises in broad daylight, especially after cleaning the toilet? Nevertheless, Nika decided to prepare a couple of gourmet dishes for dinner, fueled by her anticipation of a magical evening. She hummed a song, excited to show off to someone. Perhaps she should send her mom a picture of her new earrings while Boris was away. Joyfully, Veronica entered her office, noisily pulling open a desk drawer. But to her surprise, there was nothing there. No jewelry, no beautiful branded package, no earrings with the green stone, nor a velvet box. Suddenly, the sun outside the window lost its luster, as if fading away. Nika sank to the carpet, feeling as though a firm hand had grabbed her throat, making it hard for her to breathe. The sound of the front door lock clicking signaled Boris's return. Veronica tried to calm herself down, reminding herself of the mistakes she had made in the heat of the moment. There was a lot to sort out. She stood up from the floor and went to serve her husband with delicious dishes. As they sat down for dinner, the atmosphere was heavy with tension, trapping Veronica like a swamp. But Boris seemed oblivious to the gloom around him and his wife's changed mood. He enthusiastically asked about the special occasion and eagerly shared the favorable business deal he had secured. Veronica felt a wave of nausea and struggled to eat a few spoonfuls of salad. Her mind was filled with worrisome thoughts, each one worse than the last, swirling like stray cats in an abandoned attic. He wasn't at a meeting, he was with his mistress. Maybe I should call Milka, she might have noticed something suspicious. But who should I call? You fool? What if he took Milka's precious earrings? What should I do? How do I even ask? Lost in her thoughts, Veronica absent-mindedly stared at her husband. His face, so attractive and yet so unfamiliar, seemed like a stranger's. Boris noticed her gaze and smiled warmly. "Sonny, this fish is amazing. This client is a gold mine. It's not just a house, it's practically a mansion. The company is going to make a lot of money from the repairs. By the way, we can trade in your old car for a decent one. Do we have anything for tea?" Veronica snapped out of her daze. "What? Tea? You had strawberries and cream. Now you want baked goods? I'm sorry, I didn't have time to bake scones for dinner. I meant a boring store-bought cookie or cupcake." Boris exclaimed, surprised. "You make it seem like you're baking nonstop." He couldn't resist teasing. "By the way, I work too, you know. Or are you suggesting I can't handle dough? And as for those cinnamon pretzels, I can't even remember their taste." Boris laughed good-naturedly. Nikush, when have I ever forced you to stay at the stove? I understand that you're busy with your lessons. I can see that. Maybe I'm not the best housewife, but you're not much better. Nikush muttered, feeling slightly offended. What are you trying to say? Veronica silently shouted in her head, her frustration bubbling up. But aloud, she said something completely different. It's been 2 months and you still haven't hung up the shelf in Veryushka's room. You should have called a professional a long time ago, Boris replied, feeling aggrieved. I don't even have a drill. I'll buy one and hang up your shelf. Words, 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 Nika waved dismissively. By the way, who said that? Is it from a movie? Boris asked, feeling a bit confused. Unfortunately, neither Terminator nor Spider-Man said such things. Nika retorted with a wry grin. It was Hamlet who said that. Shakespeare. And you call yourself a philologist, while I have a degree in construction, Boris scoffed. Who reads Shakespeare these days? You should really consider reading Russian classics every once in a while, starting with Oblomov. There are a lot of interesting things about your fellow couch potato. Sorry, but I can't assist with that. Boris angrily pushed himself up from the table. Screw you, sunshine. He grabbed his winter jacket from the coat rack and stormed out of the apartment, slamming the door behind him, causing a deafening bang. Fine, go on your own, Veronica shouted after him, her voice filled with frustration, before collapsing in tears. In tears, she hurriedly dialed her mother's number in Turkey. He really was at a business meeting, Irina Petrovna assured her daughter, trying to calm her down. Varya and I had a video call with him right at that time. Don't even doubt it. Mom, you always defend your beloved Borenka. Where did the earrings disappear to? I'm telling you, the jewelry is gone. Nika exclaimed, indignant. Why do you think he took them? Her mother remained unperturbed. Maybe he just put them in a safe place. Sorry, my dear, but you often poke your nose where it doesn't belong, and Borya knows that very well. But why didn't he give me the earrings during dinner? Nika sobbed, her voice choked with emotion. You yourself said there was no reason for a gift. Perhaps he's already prepared a surprise for Valentine's Day. He had some extra money, so maybe he bought it. Either ask your husband directly or stop torturing yourself. Jealousy truly is a green-eyed beast. Who said that? Nika asked, wiping her tears, a hint of curiosity in her voice. It's Shakespeare, my poor philologist. It's a shame not to know. Anyway, Veronica, don't mess with my head. Upon Boris's return home, his wife's emotions had settled, leaving her consumed with guilt. To make amends, Nika decided to bake cinnamon pretzels. As Boris entered the kitchen, he placed a hefty and sizable box on the table. It's a drill. The amount of money spent on it could have easily hired several handymen. Tomorrow, I'll hang the shelf, if you don't mind. I don't want to disturb the neighbors Saturday night, Boris remarked. Whatever you say, my love, Nika responded meekly. You'll make some noise tomorrow. Perhaps I can make some tea and pretzels. On Sunday, Nika was awakened by the shrill noise of a drilling machine. Boris was in the process of hanging a shelf in their daughter's room. Why was he up so early? Nika mumbled as she stretched sweetly and glanced at the clock. Wow, it's already 11 o'clock. I slept so well. Now I'll go make some coffee. Slipping on her robe and fluffy slippers, Nika noticed that the unpleasant sound from the wall had subsided. In the hallway, she overheard her husband speaking on the phone. I'd love to, but only in the afternoon, all right? I have some reporting to attend to, or I'll be engulfed in paperwork, Boris explained. At 4 p.m., that's perfect. Well, kisses. See you later. Nika peered into her daughter's room, wearing a smile on her face. Good morning. Working on your day off again? She asked. I'll only be gone for an hour, Nikush, Boris reassured her. You won't even miss me. I just need to clean up the tools while you admire the new shelf. He leaned in and kissed her on the nose before leaving. As soon as Boris began rummaging through his tools in the storeroom, Nika seized the opportunity to grab his phone. And what she saw made everything go blurry. Boris had just received a call from Milka. How was this possible? How could it be? By the time Boris returned to the room, Neka had made up her mind. She would hunt down these traitors and catch them red-handed. Neka could forgive a lot of things, but not betrayal and humiliation. She would rip out her friend's hair and divorce her husband. But then, a vision of hopelessness flashed before her eyes. An old woman with gray hair, standing alone, watching her beloved daughter leave for adulthood. That was nonsense. Neka shook her head to dispel her wild imagination. "Lovely shelf, my love," she said, a sweet smile playing on her lips. "Have you eaten breakfast yet?" At the designated time, Neka was on high alert. Boris was taken aback when he bumped into her in the hallway. "Where are you going?" he asked, fastening his jacket. "To the store," Veronica replied, pulling out a plain gray jacket from the closet and putting on a mouse-colored cap. "We're running low on shampoo and toothpaste." Boris offered, "Can I give you a ride?" Neka scoffed, "Are you kidding? It's just a few steps to the supermarket." The couple bid farewell and went their separate ways. Neka, however, had a different plan in mind. She discreetly hid behind a nearby pole, patiently waiting for her husband's car to exit the parking lot. As soon as Boris's Toyota disappeared from sight, Neka swiftly made her way towards her trusty old Mazda. Neka knew that following her husband would be tricky. She couldn't afford for Boris to catch on to her surveillance, yet she couldn't lose sight of his car either. It was a delicate balance, one that required her to keep a safe distance. Neka cursed herself for choosing such a conspicuous car, a bright red one at that. What was she thinking? She was dressed in gray from head to toe, attempting to blend in, but her vibrant car screamed for attention. She contemplated disguising herself, perhaps even wearing a fake mustache, just to throw Boris off her trail. With her heart pounding in her chest, Neka barely managed to slip into a vacant parking spot as her husband's car came to a stop near the subway station. She anxiously kept a watchful eye on the surroundings, her red Mazda standing out like a sore thumb. Soon enough, Milka emerged from the underground passage, adorned in a new fur coat and fashionable high-heeled boots. Neka couldn't help but harbor ill feelings towards the woman who had deceived her. Secretly, she wished for misfortune to befall Milka, cursing her existence as she approached Boris's car with an idiotic smile and a playful dance. Neka's surveillance persisted as the couple made their way to a jewelry store. She wondered what it was that Milka desired this time. A pair of earrings that didn't meet her standards, perhaps? Or maybe she had her eyes set on another extravagant piece of jewelry. Neka's impatience grew as she eagerly anticipated their departure from the store. Finally, the couple emerged from the store, and Neka's heart raced with anticipation. Milka clutched an open velvet box, her unwavering gaze fixed upon its contents. Neka couldn't help but feel a surge of bitterness towards her supposed faithful friend. Bad luck struck Neka unexpectedly. As she approached the intersection, a large van suddenly appeared, blocking her view of the Mazda. When the traffic light turned green, she had no idea which direction Boris's car had taken. Meanwhile, her friend's ex-husband had taken her son for a few days, so Neka and her partner sought solace in Mila's empty apartment. However, their peace would not last long. Winter days were short, and darkness had already fallen when the red Mazda stopped in front of Mila's house, just across from Neka's window. Faint silhouettes danced behind the bright curtains, leaving Neka filled with a mix of excitement and despair. Tears streamed down her face as she pondered how to handle this vile and mortifying situation. Should she burst into the apartment and unleash her anger on her friend and husband? Or should she return home, pack her husband's things, and leave them in the hallway, attempting to salvage her dignity? Fear and hurt overwhelmed Neka as she stood outside Milky's bedroom, watching the lights go out. Without hesitation, she leaped out of the car, raced up the 4 flights of stairs, and pounded on the door with desperation. Mila, startled and concerned, opened the door, her silk robe barely clinging to her. "Nika, what's wrong?" Mila asked, her voice filled with fear. "Is something wrong with your daughter, Nika?" Veronica forcefully pushed Ludmila aside and made her way towards the bedroom. "Nika, are you out of your mind?" Nika struggled to keep up with her friend. Entering the room with shoes on, "What's happening?" Veronica ominously assured her, "You're about to find out." She opened the bedroom door and froze in shock. A strange man sat on the bed with his shirt unbuttoned. It was a complete nightmare. "Hello," Veronica greeted him politely, overwhelmed with embarrassment. She quickly maneuvered past Mila and hurried out of the stranger's apartment. As she descended the stairs, an angry voice pierced through her from behind. "You foolishly crazy. Why did you come here?" In the car, Nika berated herself. What a shameful mistake. How could she have not realized that Boris's Toyota wasn't parked outside Milka's house? Suppose he went upstairs to Mila's apartment, but where did he park the car? Did he put it in his pocket? It wasn't Milka then. Who could it have been? Nika regretted leaving her friend so abruptly and wished she had asked her why she had gone to the jewelry store with Boris. Did Mila know about her husband's affairs? Veronica burst into the living room at home, clad in her clothing and still appearing as she was breathless and perspiring. She was wearing an old down jacket and a backwards-facing, unattractive hat. "Like an oil painting," Boris chuckled. "Where have you been wandering, my love? I've been waiting for you. How do you like everything?" The room was softly illuminated, with beautiful music playing in the background. A table set for two held a bottle of her favorite wine, a selection of cheese and fruit, and a white velvet box. She couldn't believe her foolishness. Nikki felt a sense of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders. Disregarding her outerwear and letting it fall to the floor, she approached the table. "Borka, this is a surprise, isn't it?" "Thank you, my dear," Veronica said as she grabbed the velvet case. "What on earth?" White gold earrings adorned with sparkling, clear stones. She was about to burst with joy. "They're a different pair of earrings," his wife said gloomily. "Of course they are," Boris replied cheerfully, oblivious to the implication in her words. "Are they beautiful? Milka assured me that you would love them." "What does she have to do with this?" Veronica asked, clearly confused. "She picked them out," her husband explained enthusiastically. "There's a whole story here. When we visited her grandmother's apartment, I mentioned that I wanted to buy you some jewelry just because, without any special occasion. Mila remembered that you'd been wanting earrings for a while, so she helped me choose a lovely pair with emeralds. I plan to give them to you on Saturday. Why didn't you?" "Sweetie, please listen to me first," Boris began. "Last Friday, when I was at my parents' house, Mila and I talked, and I sent her a photo of my earrings. She was quite upset. She mentioned that you dislike yellow gold and colored stones, thinking they don't suit you. So we decided that today we would go to the store together and exchange the jewelry. Milka personally chose these. Look how well it turned out." "Just perfect," Veronica whispered, tears welling up in her throat. "These are the most beautiful earrings in the world," she kissed her husband. Pour me some wine. Call Mila first. She was so concerned about whether you'd like her choice or not. Comfort your dearest friend." "I don't think my dearest friend wants to hear from me right now," Nika replied without thinking. Boris studied her guilt-ridden face. "Nikush, did you do something? Tell me." And Veronica, blushing, confessed all her sins to her husband. To her surprise, Boris didn't get angry. He looked at her with tenderness and sympathy. "Silly girl. Come here." Her husband pulled Nika closer, kissed the top of her head. "What a nightmare. Instead of simply asking me about the earrings, you put yourself through 3 days of torment. How difficult could it have been to just ask? Othello in ribbons. Yes, jealousy is a dreadful thing. It consumes a person." "A monster with green eyes," Veronica recalled. That's what my mother calls jealousy. That's what my mother-in-law said. She didn't say that. Who did? Oh my goodness, Nika shook her head. It was Shakespeare. Borya, what are you really up to? It's a shame not to know, sweetie. Please listen to me first, Boris began. Last Friday, when I was at my parents' house, Mela and I talked, and I sent her a photo of my earrings. She was quite upset. She mentioned that you dislike yellow gold and colored stones, thinking they don't suit you. So we decided that today we would go to the store together and exchange the jewelry. Milka personally chose these. Look how well it turned out. Just perfect, Veronica whispered, tears welling up in her throat. These are the most beautiful earrings in the world, she kissed her husband. Bor, pour me some wine. Call Mila first. She was so concerned about whether you'd like her choice or not. Comfort your dearest friend. I don't think my dearest friend wants to hear from me right now, Nika replied without thinking. Boris studied her guilt-ridden face. Nikush, did you do something? Tell me. And Veronica, blushing, confessed all her sins to her husband. To her surprise, Boris didn't get angry. He looked at her with tenderness and sympathy. Silly girl. Come here. Her husband pulled Mika closer, kissed the top of her head. What a nightmare. Instead of simply asking me about the earrings, you put yourself through 3 days of torment. How difficult could it have been to just ask? Othello in ribbons. Yes, jealousy is a dreadful thing. It consumes a person. A monster with green eyes, Veronica recalled. That's what my mother calls jealousy. That's what my mother-in-law said. She didn't say that. Who did? Oh my goodness, Nika shook her head. It was Shakespeare. Borya, what are you really up to? It's a shame not to know.